Welcome to Millennium Daytime Bulletin. I'm Shweta Samar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium News Channel 24. Today I'm bringing you the latest news from around the world. Let's begin with today's top headlines. Israel launches dozens of airstrikes on Syria despite rebel leader peace pledge. Donald Trump to get $15 million from ABC News over anchor's liable for rape remark. Russia pulling back but not out of Syria, sources say. Italy's PM Meloni could bridge the gap between Trump and Europe. South Korean leaders seek calm after President Yoon Suk Yeol is impeached. Trump trolls ex-NJ governor Chris Christie with hilarious meme over mystery drone sightings. Israel intensifies Syria attack but HTS leader says don't want conflict. Mixed signals across global markets as US indices struggle while Latin America sees sharp shifts. Aston Villa goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez marks the best save ever in Premier League match against Nottingham Forest. India vs Pakistan Women's Under-19 Asia Cup highlights. India vs thrash Pakistan wicket by 9 wickets. Now let's look at the details. Israel struck dozens of sites in Syria overnight with airstrikes despite the Syrian rebel leader Abu Muhammad al-Jalani saying his Hayat Tahrir al-Shalom HTS group was not interested in conflict with Israel. The latest airstrikes follow a statement by Israel's defense minister. Israel cuts that Israeli troops who seized the Golan Heights buffer zone with Syria last week would remain for the winters on Mount Hermon in position they occupied last week. Quds office said in a statement that due to what is happening in Syria, there is enormous security importance to our holding on to the peak. Abu Muhammad al-Jalani, a non-de guerra used by Ahmed al-Shara, told Syrian state media that there are no excuses for any foreign intervention in Syria now after the Iranians have left. We are not in the process of engaging in a conflict with Israel. Jalani said Israel was using false pretext to justify its attack on Syria, but that he was not interested in engaging in new conflict as the country focused on rebuilding after the end of Bashar al-Assad's regime. He added that diplomatic solutions were the only way to ensure stability rather than ill-considered military adventures. Israeli arguments have become weak and no longer justify their recent violations. The Israelis have clearly crossed the line of engagement in Syria, which poses a threat of unwarranted escalation in the region, Jalani said. Syria war weary conditions after years of conflict and war does not allow for new confrontations. The priority at this stage is reconstruction and stability, not being drawn into disputes that could lead to further destruction. The British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said Israel fired 61 missiles at Syrian military sites in less than 5 hours on Saturday evening. Israeli air raids hit bases, heavy weapon sites associated with the former Assad regime missile and chemical weapons program and destroyed Syria's small naval force in port of Latakia. The continuing strikes have prompted mounting concerns among diplomats and international officials concerned over their fear that may be an open-ended new occupation of Syrian territory. ABC News will pay $15 million, approx 127 crores to Donald Trump as the two sides reached a settlement to resolve a defamation lawsuit brought by the US President-elect. Court documents filed on Saturday showed that the terms of settlement. ABC News will donate the money to a fund dedicated to a presidential foundation and museum for Trump. The Republican leader filed the lawsuit over an air comment by George Stepp, a top anchor at the news network, suggesting that former was found liable for rape. Stepp made the remark while interviewing Nancy Mace, a Republican senator, in March. ABC News and Stepp will also issue public apologies, saying that regret statements made by Trump during the interview, and the broadcaster will also pay $1 million separately as attorney fees. The two sides reached a settlement a day after Judge Lissette M. Reed called for depositions from both Trump and Stepp. The incoming president, who will be sworn in on January 20 and previously held the top job from 2016 to 20, was found liable for sexual abuse in a 2023 case filed by author Elizabeth Jean Carroll. However, under New York law, sexual abuse is a different transgression from rape. Russia is pulling back its military from the front lines in northern Syria and from posts in the Alawite Mountains, but is not leaving its two main bases in the country after the fall of President Bashar al-Assad. Four Syrian officials told Reuters that the ousting of Assad, who along with his late father, former President Hafez al-Assad, had forged a close alliance with Moscow, has thrown the future of Russia's bases, the Hamim Air Base in Latakia and the Tartus naval facility, into question. Satellite footage from Friday shows what appeared to be leased two Antonov AN-124s, among the world's largest cargo planes, at the Hamim base with their nose cones open, apparently prepared to load up. At least one cargo plane flew out on Saturday from Libya, a Syrian security official stationed outside the facility said. The Syrian military and security sources in contact with the Russian told Reuters that Moscow was pulling back its forces from the front lines and withdrawing some heavy equipment and senior Syrian officers. But the sources, who spoke on conditions of anonymity due to the sensitivity of the situation, said Russia was not pulling out of its two main bases and currently had no intentions of doing so. Some equipment is being shipped back to Moscow, as are very senior officers from Assad's military, but the aim at this stage is to regroup and redeploy as dictated by the developments on the ground. A senior Syrian minister said it's in touch with the Russian military, told Reuters. A senior rebel officials close to the new interim administration told Reuters that the issue of the Russian military presence in Syria and past agreements between the Assad government and Moscow were not under discussion. It is matter for future talks and Syrian people will have to final say, said the officials, adding that Moscow had set up communication channel. Our forces are now close contact vicinity of the Russian bases in Latakia, he added without elaborating. The Kremlin had said Russia is in discussions with the new rulers of Syria over the bases. Russia's defense ministry did not respond to a request for comment on Reuters reporting. A Russian source who spoke on conditions of anonymity said that the discussions with the new rulers of Syria were ongoing and Russia was not withdrawing from its air bases. A few years ago, it would have been unimaginable that Italy would be home to one of the most stable governments in Europe. Italian coalition administrations tended to last just over a year before collapsing, making Italy's predictably unpredictable. But a series of factors, including government crisis in relatively stable countries like France and Germany, and the roaring popularity of Italy's current coalition, led by far-right Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in power since 2022, have made Rome the key player in Europe's relationship with Russia and US under Donald Trump's second presidency. During his last term, Trump called Europe a foe of the US. This time, Meloni has the potential to turn that around, thanks in part to their mutual friends Elon Musk. Trump, and Meloni dined together at French President Emmanuel Macron's 60-person dinner after the official reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris last weekend. An experience Trump later told the New York Post was positive. "We get along great," he said, adding that he and Meloni had spent a lot of time together. Describing the diminutive figure, Meloni herself often joked about her 5'2" height as a live wire. He predicted that they could straighten out the world a little bit. The two leaders, while politically similar, don't necessarily align on all the world's most pressing conflicts. Meloni has been one of the Ukraine's strongest backers, having met with President Vladimir Zelensky a dozen times since Russia's invasion. Whether she can in any way affect what Trump might do, however, is hard to know, but we and she will have first dibs to try in Europe. Before there is new government in Germany, and with the current situation in France, when Trump comes into the White House, Italy will have a kind of monopoly as the only country with a stable government. Our senior director of Department of Political Science at Lewis University in Rome told Millennium that Meloni and Musk have a very good ongoing relationship, and Musk can be a kind of best friend to both as long as Trump-Musk honeymoon lasts at least. Musk and Meloni forged their very strong friendship in the summer of 2023, and the Tesla founder headlined Meloni's Brother of Italy political convention in December last year. South Korea's opposition leader offered on Sunday, December 15, 2024, to work with the government to ease the political tumult as officials sought to reassure allies and mark it a day after the opposition-controlled Parliament voted to impeach conservative President Yoon Suk-yeol over a short-lived attempt to impose martial law. Liberal Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung, whose party hold a majority in the National Assembly, urged the Constitutional Court to rule swiftly on Mr. Yoon's impeachment and proposed a special council for cooperation between the government and Parliament. Mr. Yoon's power have been suspended until the court decided whether to remove him from the office or reinstate him. If Mr. Yoon is dismissed, a national election to choose his successor must be held within 60 days. Mr. Lee, who have led a fierce political offensive against Mr. Yoon's embattled government, is seen as the forerunner to replace him. He told a television news conference that a swift court ruling would be the only way to minimize national confusion and the suffering of people. The court will meet to begin considering the case on Monday, December 16, 2024, and has up to 180 days to rule. But observers say that a court ruling could come faster in the case of parliamentary impeachments of past presidents Roh Moo-hyun in 2004 and Park in 2016. The court spent 63 days and 91 days respectively before determining to reinstate Roh and dismissed Mr. Park. Also proposed a national council where government and the National Assembly would work together to stabilize state affairs, and said his party won't seek to impeach the Prime Minister, a Mr. Yoon appointee who's now serving as acting president. The Democratic Party will actively cooperate with all parties to stabilize state affairs and restore international trust, Mr. Lee said. The National Assembly, the government, will work together to quickly resolve the crisis. that has swept across the Republic of Korea. It wasn't immediately clear how the governing People Power Party would react to Mr. Lee's proposal. Kim Wong, a former PPP lawmaker, accused Mr. Lee of attempting to exert power over the state affairs. Amid the mystery drone sightings in the state of New Jersey over the last few weeks, President-elect Donald Trump took a dig at former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie with an AI-generated image of Christie eating a McDonald's Happy Meal supplied by drones after a week of drone sighting in New Jersey and New York did not lead to any significant clues from the administration. Trump broke his silence on the issue on Friday. The 78-year-old called for shooting down the drones and asked if they could be happening without the knowledge of the government. Mystery drone sightings all over the country. Can this really be happening without our government's knowledge? I don't think so. Trump wrote on Truth Social that his let the public know and now otherwise shoot them down DTJ. Chris Christie, who is a member of the Republican Party, has been quiet on the drone sightings, having issued no statement on the matter thus far. Trump's post on Saturday was most likely a dig at the 62-year-old. Notably, Christie was also a competitor of Donald Trump's in the Republican Party for the presidential nomination in 2024. His campaign strategy was focused on criticism of Trump as a failed leader who puts himself before the country. He also frequently highlighted Trump's legal troubles and moral responsibility for the January 6, 2020 Capitol attack. Chris Christie suspended his presidential campaign on January 10, 2024. Shortly before that, he was caught on a hot mic predicting that Nikki Haley would get smoked and called Florida Governor Ron DeSantis petrified. Israeli air forces have carried out dozens of attacks targeting military and ammunition sites across Syria as the de facto Syrian leader warned against the incursion but added that his country does not want a new conflict. More than 60 Israeli airstrikes took place over the last 12 hours, Al Jazeera Rasul Sardar reporting from the Syrian capital Damascus said, adding that Israel has conducted about 800 air raids across Syria since the ouster of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad last week. We have heard several loud explosions which would have been almost a routine here. The focus on Israeli airstrike in Damascus and its outskirts, said Sardar, confirming that ammunition depots and the air defense system had been struck in a district of Damascus. This has been part of the Israeli strategy since the fall of the al-Assad regime to leave the country without air defenses against its attack, Sardar said. Israeli forces have also destroyed roads, power lines and water networks in the southeastern Quneitra region after people refused to follow their orders to evacuate, according to Al Jazeera's Muntasir Abu reports. Israeli tanks are now stationed in towns and villages in Syria's southwest as the Israeli military expanded its occupation of the Syrian Golan Heights, said Naboth. Reporting from Quneitra, Israeli troops entered the United Nations patrol buffer zone that separated Israeli and Syrian forces on the Golan Heights last weekend in a move that the UN said violated the 1974 Armistice Agreement. The United Kingdom-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights (SOHR) said Israel launched 61 missiles at Syrian military sites in less than 5 hours overnight, striking military warehouses in Homs, Deraa, Suwada and the Kalamaun mountains near Damascus, as well as air defenses at the Hama airport. SOHR also published footages from what is said was an Israeli attack on a military camp in the town of Anmin near Damascus. The leader of HDS and de facto head of Syria's new administration, Ahmad al-Shara, said Israeli could no longer justify their recent actions in Syria but added that the country was not in a position to draw into a new conflict. The Syria and Israel's have clearly crossed their disengagement line in Syria, which threatens a new unjustified escalation in the region, Al-Jara said, adding that despite the violation, the general exhaustion in Syria after years of war and conflict does not allow us to enter new conflicts. Now bringing you the latest updates on today's market trends. The global markets are exhibiting mixed signal today as American and Latin America indices show contrasting performance. In the United States, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 86.06 points, signaling investor caution amid lingering economic concern. Similarly, the S&P 500 remained virtually flat, dipping 0.16 points. On the other hand, tech-heavy Nasdaq delivered a modest gain of 23.8 points, reflecting a strength in the technology sector. Volatility in the US is underscored by the VIX index, which spiked by 2.50%. The increase in the indicates rising uncertainty in market sentiments, with the investors hedging against potential short-term risks. Moving to Canada, the story is similarly cautious. The S&P TSX Composite dropped 136.41 points, while the S&P TSX 60 saw a smaller decline of 7.88 points, pointing to broad-based weakness across Canadian equities. In Latin America, the Bovespa in Brazil took a major hit, plunging 1,429 points, a notably downward move likely tied to economic policy anxieties or international market pressures. However, Mexico bucked the trend as S&P BMV IPC surged by 335 points, offering a bright spot for investors seeking stability in the region. Lastly, Childs S&P IPSA fell 13.79 points, signaling sluggish momentum. To summarize, while US markets see a mix of small gains and losses, Latin America's sharp movement, both positive and negative, highlight a day of volatility. Investors are now closely watching economic updates and market signals for clarity in days ahead. In today's commodity market, energy and metal experienced mild pressure, signaling cautious trading sentiment as the year winds down. WTI crude oil CL00 dropped by $0.20 or 0.28%, settling at $71 per barrel. This comes amid concerns about global oil demand and oversupply ahead of shifting economic conditions. Similarly, Brent crude oil dipped by $0.15, trading at $74, furthering reflecting softness in global energy markets. Natural gas also edged down marginally by $0.01 or 0.37% to $3.27. Despite seasonal winter demand price weakness suggests supply remains ample to meet current consumption trend. Turning to precious metals, gold faced a significant decline of $9, settling at $2,000. This drop may signal reduced investor appetite for safe haven assets as equity markets show mixed but stabilizing patterns. Meanwhile, silver remained relatively stable, slipping only $0.03 to $31.0 per ounce, indicating a steadier footing compared to the gold. The agricultural commodities market provided a glimmer of positive movement as soybeans inched up by 0.05%, closing at $9.89. This modest gain highlights consistent demand in the agricultural sector, while prices showing stability within their 52 weeks range. In summary, the day saw modest declines across energy and precious metal markets, signaling investor caution as global economic uncertainties loom. While crude oil and gold faced mild corrections, agricultural commodities showed resilience, with soybeans bucking to the trend the post slight gain. Traders will now focus on economic data and supply demand indicators as they navigate the final stretch of the year. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm Shweta Simar. Keep watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back after the break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin. On Saturday, in the 59th minute of his team's Premier League clash against Nottingham Forest, time seemed to stand still for Aston Villa goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez. As a leader from Forest, Nicolas Dominguez whizzled past him. Martinez leapt backwards, reached out one hand and somehow pushed the ball to the ground to stop it spinning into the net when it was just centimeters in front of the goal line. It was a former Wales defender, Ashley Williams, said on BBC's Match of the Day, simply the best save I have ever seen. He's so clever, he understands what he is and what he needs to do. He is facing the wrong way, Williams added. Other pundits and players also hailed Martinez. England goalkeeper Mary Earps called the save beyond outrageous on Instagram, while the Premier League said it was world-class. Former Liverpool defender Jamie Redknapp said on Sky Sports that he couldn't think of a better Premier League save in my life. It's almost a magician, sleight half hand. This is truly sensational. Redknapp added, ultimately, however, Martinez's heroics were in vain as Aston Villa succumbed to a 2-1 loss undone by a late Forest fight back. Villa had taken the lead 3 minutes after the Argentina's brilliant save through a John Doran header. Unai Emery's men defended that the lead of almost the rest of the game until Nikola Milkovic added the ball into the net in the 87th minute and Martinez fumbled that save. Forest secured the victory 5 minutes later in inquiry and injury time when the Anthony Elanga prodded the ball in from close range. With that win, Forest climbed to 4th in the Premier League table while Villa remained in 6th place. A small target of 68 runs and India women chased it down in style to kick off the tournament. G. Kamilni starred with an unbeaten 44 of 29 balls, though the girls in blue suffered an early blow as Fatima Khan took down 68-run stand between Kamilni and vice-captain Sanika Chalke took India home with 73 balls to spare. Thus, India women bagged their first point on the tally. Earlier, Team India, led by Nikki Prasad, exhibited a brilliant bowling performance as they restricted Pakistan to 67 on 7 out in 20 overs. Uttar Pradesh spinner Sonam Yadav was the pick of the Indian bowlers, returning magical figures of 4 for 6 in her 4th over quota. For Pakistan, wicketkeeper Komal Khan top scored with 24 of 32, while 7 batters in line-up scored in single digits. That's all for now. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for more updates. Log in and stay updated with the latest news on our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Millennium News 24. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, Millennium News 24. You can watch us on Android and iOS devices, as well as on Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and all smart TV platforms. Enjoy entertainment and latest news with us Download the Millennium TV apps, Millennium TV USA for Android and Millennium News on Google. Thank you for being part of Millennium News Channel 24.